Hey, what's up you guys? Rising Sun 2007, back again for another vlog. Today I'm going to talk about Legend of Zelda. If you guys don't know, I'm an avid Zelda fan. I've played almost basically every Zelda game that's come out, with the exception of the 3 games that do not exist, and we should not talk about those games because those 3 particular games, some of you know what I'm talking about. Those games do not exist. They should never. They don't exist. They shouldn't have been even conceived. Anyway, specifically, what I'm going to talk about is these: the Legend of Zelda manga. These are all made by Viz Kids. Their story and art is by Akira Himekawa. All 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 volumes. These manga, they follow the general plot of the games with their own creative liberties on them. They explain certain things in their own way that isn't explained in the game. It's not canon at all, since it's, you know, not actual in-game content or whatever, but some of the things they explain that isn't actually in the game does make sense. Like, for example, I believe in one of these 2 volumes, it discusses why the Shikai symbol is an eyeball with a tear coming down it. I don't exactly remember the exact reason, because I haven't read these books. I haven't read these in a while. But in one of these, it explains why they have that tear. Also, I believe in this volume, the 2nd volume of Ocarina of Time, it explains why Zelda became Sheik in the first place, in a different way, in a different manner, slightly different manner from how it happens in the game. Pretty interesting stuff. Another interesting thing about these manga that I really like, where they explain things that are different from the game, is the fact that in Majora's Mask, the manga, at the very end of it, it explains, or it tries to explain what exactly Majora was, or where Majora's Mask came from. It also briefly talks about Fierce Deity, who in the manga looks very similar to Adult Link, but it's slightly different. So it basically explains where Fierce Deity, from, if you played Majora's Mask, you've got all the masks in the game, there's a mask called the Fierce Deity mask, which is a mask that when you put it on, it turns Link into Fierce Deity, which is basically Adult Link with white hair, this peculiar, unique armor, and he has this double helix sword or whatever that fires energy beams, as long as you have magic power. And this book explains, you know, it explains a little bit about Majora in Fierce Deity. All of these Zelda manga are pretty interesting. They're pretty accurate to the games, even though they take their own liberties. If you're a fan of Zelda, it's something that I would actually recommend you pick up. They have manga for every game that's come out, I believe, except for Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Link's Awakening, Twilight Princess, Spirit Tracks. I think that's it. They have manga for Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda, Majora's Mask, Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, Legend of Zelda: The Four Swords, The Minish Cap, Link to the Past, there was one more, and Phantom Hourglass. The other ones that they haven't made, as I already said, they don't have Zelda 1, 2, Link's Awakening, Twilight Princess. They have Wind Waker, but it's not quite the same as these mangas, where it's actually follows the story. The Wind Waker manga is like basically Misadventures of Toon Link. What else is there? They also don't have the manga for Spirit Tracks, like I said, and they don't have the manga for Skyward Sword. Personally, I kind of wonder whether or not they're actually going to make manga for those ones that they haven't made. I can understand some reason why they wouldn't. Like Skyward Sword, Twilight Princess. The reason those two will come out is because despite how cartoony Skyward Sword looks, despite how cartoony it looks, it has a very dark undertone to it. Not quite as dark as, Majora's Mask or Twilight Princess, but despite its cartoony looking graphics, it's very dark. Twilight Princess, that I can understand because Twilight Princess is incredibly dark. It's the second darkest and second most violent out of all the Zelda games. Next, because Majora's Mask takes the cake for being the most violent. Well, not necessarily violent, but the darkest of the Zelda games. Twilight Princess probably takes the violence aspect, but Majora's Mask is the darkest. If you've played the game and if you understand it, if you look at it from this perspective, the villain in Majora's Mask, Majora, unlike all the other villains, Ganondorf, Demise, Giriam, I believe it's Agraham, Vati, the villain that you have in Spirit Tracks, all those villains, they all have one thing in common. They want to basically control things or take over Hyrule. Majora doesn't give a shit. Majora just wants to destroy things. He just wants to bring about destruction to the world. He doesn't care. He just wants to bring about destruction. Doesn't care at all. Another interesting fact is if you think about it from this perspective, Majora's Mask, when you fight him, those little tentacles that are coming out of the mask when you fight him in the first phase, I believe, think about it for a minute. Those tendrils were probably embedded into Skull Kid's face. That's pretty morbid if you ask me. Which is why, at least in my opinion, Majora's Mask is probably the darkest. Not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily call it the most violent. I think Twilight Princess is a little bit more violent in its own right than Majora's Mask, but Majora's Mask is definitely the darkest. Even though in the manga, because it's made by Viz Kids, it's not quite as disturbing as the actual game. Because anyone who's actually played that game will probably tell you that it's kind of disturbing, especially back when I was not even back when I was a kid. Even now, like the moon in that game with the face, that moon still kind of creeps me out, just a tad. Like when I was a kid, the thing used to scare the shit out of me, and it still kind of creeps me out. But yeah, really all I want to talk about is my Zelda tardiness and the fact that I enjoy it so much that I actually bought every single manga that's come out for The Legend of Zelda. Ocarina of Time, Part 2, you got Majora's Mask, Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages, the Minish Cap, Four Swords Part 1, Four Swords Part 2, Phantom Hourglass, and Link to the Past. All of these are really good manga. They follow the story very closely, as I said before, like 3 times already. They have their own liberties, which add to the story and make it more interesting. So, like I said before, if you're a fan of Zelda, if you're as big as a fan of Zelda as I am, or a fan in general, then you might actually enjoy these manga. I don't know where you'd buy these. The only way I think you would get these now is online, because when I bought this, I went to Borders and bought them, but Borders closed down, so yeah, you can't really go to the bookstore and get these if you're trying to go to Borders and get them. But anyway, guys, Resident Evil 7 out.